Hey guys, Bob and Phil here for another Trade Genius podcast. Some really interesting, kind of weird news coming out of Europe. Government's warning of blackouts and mobile cell phone outages. You're not going to want to miss this episode because we're going to dig into what that means and what that means for us here in the U.S. as well. So let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
Hey Phil, I want to just show you the chart of the DAX here. This is the DAX, and this has been the move from 20 up into that top into 2021 here. And then we've just been selling off in Germany for obvious reasons. And then they've had this is a weekly move here. This is a 20% move, and it came right in this light blue line you see here is the moving VWAP for the weekly, and it came up and it tagged it. And I think, what we're seeing the government start to warn their people. And then, you also had a situation where the U.S. government is now trying to make Ukraine go ahead and go into peace negotiations. The Russians are preparing for a winter offensive. And I think the German market is not going to react very well. Russia has already threatened just to shut off oil and gas altogether. I think this might be as good as you get here for this move. And then I'm looking for it just to roll over. And I think this is going to be a good trade for the short side. So stay tuned on that. It's on my watch list. And for those who subscribe with us, I'll be putting this out because one thing that we've learned a long time ago is that the U.S. market likes to follow the DAX. And so this is probably going to be the move that we'll remember in 2023 to put a new low in. So anyway, I want to share this chart with you, Phil. So thanks for letting me do that.
Yeah, that looks like it's hitting some major resistance there. Thanks for pointing that out, which I guess is important as we get into the next slides here, huh?
Absolutely. So let's get into it. This one shocked me this morning. That's why I said, hey, let's do this, talk about this today, because all you're hearing now is that Germany and Europe saying we got this, we're under control. Our natural gas tanks are full. We're going to go get away from Russia. And then out of the blue comes this article that says that Germany is setting up emergency cash plans in case of a blackout. Now, that is pretty scary. That means that if I heard that this morning, where I'm at this morning, I'm at the bank.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Get my cash out. I think they're afraid of some bank runs here. And
Yep.
And so, we can't live. I don't know if you remember this, but Chicago had a power failure with their the EBTs for the people with the old food stamp program.
Mm-hmm.
Within 24 hours, people were going hungry. So people don't have reserves anymore.
Right.
It's just in time living for a lot of reasons. And if you don't have cash and you can't access these systems, this is a major step backwards. Look, I totally understand. I'm anti-digital currency. I'm anti-centralized currency. But, the convenience of digital, I don't walk around with a bunch of cash. I use ATM, right, credit card like everybody else. So if that goes down, man, we're back to the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. But that's not it, Phil. Check out this next chart. This is amazing. This is the one where they're talking about blackouts of the mobile networks. Now, if you're a conspiracy theorist, say, how do you keep people from rioting, right? You shut down the power and you shut down the telecom, right? So, and you stuff them with cash so they can be mollified. But, we're talking systemic failures of what I would call, first world living. Germany is, and I said this before, and is that Germany is going back into third world status here. They really screwed the pooch. And folks, this is what you get when you listen to progressives for too long. I think even if you give them the benefit of the doubt, Phil, and say these people just want things better for the world, this is like a bunch of teenagers drinking in college, describing how they're going to run the world,
It's kind of like FTX.
Exactly like FTX. This is just a different version of FTX.
It is. It is.
These are people that just have no clue, what do you call it? People don't understand second order events, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they think just because I said it, you're going to make it happen. I was joking with guys in the room this morning. I had a CEO of my old Fortune 500 days that came from the defense industry, and he walked into our marketing meeting and said, well, if our costs are this, you just have to charge that so we get our margins. Everybody looked around the room nervously saying, you understand that the customer has a choice whether to pay this price or not. It's the same thing with this stuff.
Right.
They just think, well, we don't want to have these reserves because we don't need them. And now
Right.
I think they're in big trouble. And I think one of these things are going to happen. But there's a third thing. I think I sent you something else too. So the German firms are under duress. Remember, if you get a shortage again in natural gas, it's shutting their industry down. People don't understand how the German economy works. They're a heavy industry, chemicals, auto production, fertilizer production. They're what U.S. used to be. In terms of the way, and most of the firms are small. These are they call Mattel size companies in Germany, and they're family owned. They don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the financial backing. Not everybody's a BMW or Mercedes, but BASF is going to permanently move out of Germany for their chemicals. Huge. A lot of it's coming to the U.S. And so as these jobs go, these are good paying jobs, Phil. And these are jobs that people, second, third, fourth generation of families worked at these companies, and they're going to blow them up. I mean, if you see the bankruptcies on the German companies from companies that survived World War II are not surviving this pandemic / Russia thing. It's awful. And so the duress of the companies are going to be duress on the people. They're not going to be making the money. Germany is going to get impoverished. And I don't know about you, but the last time the Germans got surly, I think we had a world war. So,
right.
I think this is something to watch.
Yep.
I think they're way underplaying this like they always do.
Yep.
We haven't even really started winter yet. Look what's happening in the U.S. What people don't realize, if you check the climate out, Northeast cold in U.S., Northwest Europe cold in winter. It's how it works. It's the way these things mirror each other, and they can't run. I mean, they run in lean as can be. And then if Russia decides to pull out natural gas for leverage, or they get in the deal with the Saudis or whatever, then and we start pulling back on supply, this just could be a winter disaster for the Europeans, especially the Germans. So I wanted to point this out to you folks. It's really scary stuff if you think about it. And we're tiptoeing, it's like we're whistling blind and drunk through a cemetery right now, at night. Yeah. I just think at some point, and these things happen fast, it's interesting. My wife hurt herself like that, and we had a power failure in our house. It's kind of weird. We had a grid issue in California a couple of weeks ago. My wife tried to manually open the garage door. The thing broke that uses it to pop it, and she fell and broke her wrist. Just like that. And I'm thinking the same thing's happening here. Things like, oh, we're fine. Boom. Power failure. You want to see how resilient you are? Many people living in cities, people are fragile now. They don't have reserves. They don't even have food. I used to have an investment in a Mexican grocery store down in National City, and the grocery store made all its money not on groceries but on selling food. And I asked the owner that runs it, Luis. I said, "Why does this work so well?" He said, "Bob, look around." He said, "Nobody has kitchens in these houses, these apartments. Nobody has kitchens. They have to eat out, every day." And so I can't even imagine, you shut down the winter markets, you shut down the food stalls, how are people going to survive? So I don't want to overplay this, but I think it's something people really need to pay attention to. And it's a lesson for us here in the US is that, look, what happens in Europe, it happens first, then it comes over here. You were saying a little bit earlier, Phil, this is not going to be just a European problem. Do you want to add any thoughts to that? Because I think this is a lesson for us. We are getting a warning.
Yeah, I think you're getting a preview of what can happen here. But I think with this particular instance, don't think just because it's happening across the pond that we're not going to have any issues. Because if the European economy cripples, what will end up happening is that they're going to call upon the Federal Reserve, our Federal Reserve, to go in and backstop them. And ultimately what that's going to mean is we're going to get back to inflationary pressures again. And that's why we keep harping on, you got to have hedges against this, because this inflation problem isn't going to go away. And we're going to become the lender of last resort. You watch. And so this is how you have to prepare yourself. It's basically insurance on your portfolio. So things like we tell you, hard assets, gold, Bitcoin, even real estate, but you need something that's going to inflate with this inflation and ideally outpace inflation. So you want to find the most precious assets that you can find. And so I think that's why the big mistake will be, oh, well, that's just a European problem. No, eventually the Fed's going to have to get sucked in, help prop up their bond markets. You watch, and things are going to make it, it's going to cost us all. I'm glad Bob's bringing these points up because this is how it starts. It's these little sideline headlines that come across that people don't pay attention to and end up blowing up in our faces. So yeah, I agree with you there, Bob.
Absolutely. Hey guys, if you like and subscribe, you help us grow our channel. We really appreciate the growth on this stuff. Phil and I were joking about this when we were doing some pre-edits on things. We love doing this stuff. I mean, we live for this stuff, and you know, the more you support us, the more we can pump content out for you guys and really help you. You know, we're really fortunate here because Phil and I actually look at the world differently because of how we came up through the ranks, and you know, Phil's a prior business owner. He came up through telecommunication. He understands technology. I came up through the financial side of the world, looking at businesses, looking at macro. You know, for real, I'm not one of these guys that, you know, stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. I actually looked at companies, did strategic plans, bought companies. And so, you know, I'm used to looking ahead and also having the BS detector out. And these are exciting times. You know, if you guide yourself right, this is wealth generating time for you. And if you get it wrong, you know, you're going to be in a heap of trouble. So, you know, we view it as an obligation to really help you guys, you know, really find the right thing. And for those guys worried about the Bitcoin thing, we've been harping on it all week. Separate Bitcoin from crypto. Okay, you have to separate it from your mind here because Bitcoin is not going down, if you guys noticed that. So those are tells, you know, what's not looking like the other. And so we're going to be talking more about that as this thing shakes out. And then I'll be talking about where I think 2023 is on the stock side, and I think we're gonna find ourselves in the really exciting times. But if you're prepared, you thrive. So with that, Phil, thanks for the show today, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next podcast. Take care.
Trade Genius.